Is there anything new about the Hairball shows on this round? Any new songs or anything added in?
Well, I don't know what you saw exactly last time, so that's going to be a little bit tough for me to answer. But we're always trying to incorporate some new things into the show. And as I said, I don't know what you saw last time. But 2024, we do have new stuff coming up. So we're working on some new songs, some new characters. I just got off the phone with Happy, and we're gonna have a talk about all that this weekend. So I'm pretty excited for that.
What do
And
you, well, what do you notice? What do you guys notice in terms of like, I guess, trending or whatever when it comes to rock shows and particular bands and artists? Is there anything you're going, okay, the audience is liking more of blank or something like that? Have you picked up on anything like that?
that's a really good question, and I can't say that I can think of anything in particular that we do that people seem to like more than other things. And I know this is going to sound like it's going to sound, but they love the whole show. So it's tough to pick out when something really doesn't go right. Now, that's not to say that things don't go right. It's live rock and roll. And and plenty goes wrong that the audience doesn't really know about, that, backstage after the show we're like, wow.
Right.
and 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 that's fun. That's fun. I mean, you always want to put on a perfect show, but it's never perfect. And
Right.
and so when we are backstage, we're like, did you notice that? Oh yeah, I noticed that, or something like
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Any of us that have been on stage, like I sing in choirs here in Eau Claire, it's the same thing. Like we afterwards are like, wow, we screwed that up. You guys missed that. And we're like, but did anyone in the audience really notice any of that? And usually,
Right.
no, they
Yeah.
don't. For the
Yeah.
most part, they're there for the show. They're there for the entertainment. Have you guys ever thought of doing like a Spinal Tap thing, doing like Stonehenge, or someone getting caught in a plastic thing or something like that?
We talk about stuff like that all the time. And if you're aware of the history of the band, it used to be sort of a comedy act. Um, and so we got away from that about 8 years after the band started. But but we we do say things like, so we're doing Stonehenge tonight, and whatnot. So we're we're all about keeping the element of fun
Right.
in the rock and roll show. It's just a matter of how we can fit it in so it's right.
So in terms of presentation, one of the ultimates, and it seems like a whole bunch of hairball folks have Kiss as the influence going back. So now that they've had their final show, of course, with the quotation marks, is now the Kiss avatars. Um, Curious, with your history of liking the band and what the other band members liking the band, what do you think of this new avatar approach for Kiss? And is this going to be something that is more viable, you think, going down the road? Or do you think it's more like these bands really need to have either tribute bands like a Hairball, or the band just keeps evolving with new members over time? What's your thought on the presentation?
Well, you know, so Kiss isn't one of my characters, so I'm it's not something that I've thought a great deal about, but I've heard, some people talking and some fans outside the band, um, that if they were to do things like maybe, pick a time period of or an album where they didn't really do a whole lot for that album, and they were to make some costumes for that and do those songs, that maybe that might be something, that would be viable. But you just never know, the way technology is progressing. All shows could be like this eventually. I mean, I don't know. That's but I mean, think about when what was it? Natalie Cole did the song and then had her dad up there.
Yeah.
You know, that was pretty cool. They've talked about having I think a Dio, you know, concert of some kind. For those people that didn't get to see. So I think for people going forward that are younger, that have never seen a Kiss show, I think that might be something that they would enjoy. But I know a friend of mine that is a huge Kiss fan, and I watched a podcast of his recently, and as I recall, I think he was sort of the mind that he's seen Kiss more times than he can count, and he's friends with all the guys in the band, and he's perfectly fine with just, you know, saying goodbye and letting them ride off into the sunset. But you know, there are other rabid fans out there. I don't know. It's a good question, and I don't have an answer.
Yeah. I think about like my favorite bands. Like, do I want them? Like Genesis is one of my all-time favorites, but they're done. I'm okay with them being done. I don't know that I want to see, like, do I want to see Peter Gabriel with like in a weird costume from this? I don't know if I want to see that. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's fine. And I think it depends, each to their own, probably.
Yeah. Did you see Peter Gabriel's Secret World concert?
I did not, unfortunately.
You should go on YouTube and watch it.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
I watched it during the pandemic, and I went down the Peter Gabriel rabbit hole, and really enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, I did a covers album during the pandemic, and I thought about putting like Mercy Street on there. Yeah.
Wow.
But it was going to get pretty hairy with all the instrumentation and the background vocals, and I thought this might be biting off a little more than I can chew. So
there's a lot there. What did you think of IO, or I should say the content, all the songs? Because like by the time the album came out, like I already knew all the songs. Because every new moon, or was it every full moon, there was a new song that came out last year. Did you get a chance to listen to any of the new stuff?
I haven't. Now I've read that that's the case, and that he's coming out with new stuff, and I watched a documentary, but that was it. I'm not such a rabid fan that that when he comes out with something, I'm like, yes, I'm waiting for the full moon. You know?
I know, and that was a weird thing, because like, and I'm kind of like midpoint. I'm more Genesis than Peter Gabriel, but on the other hand, I'm like, wow, he's doing new stuff for the first time in forever. And then it was a neat concept, because then you'd be like, okay, look at the calendar. Hey, that means there's a new Peter Gabriel song coming out this Friday. Wow, that's an interesting thing. Right. And I can tell you, it basically sounds like Peter Gabriel. That's like I'm sure a diehard fan would be able to pinpoint certain things, but you know, he's still holding up after all this time, and it's still very, very much him. It's maybe the best way to put it.
That's great to hear, because I mean, when you listen to a body of work like that, and it spans a couple of decades, and you think, you know, wow, this is great. I'm sort of, I don't want to name names of my favorite rock artists that aren't, you know, just quite what they were anymore. But it really does sort of break your heart, you know, when you go see them live and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done this, you know.
Yeah.
And that's just, you know, because you want to remember them in their glory days. Well, maybe even that reflects back to the Kiss thing, you know. When I saw them back in the 80s, and I saw them in Vegas, I think it was 2015. It was a fantastic visual spectacle, but you know, it wasn't the best vocal performance, you know, that I ever heard. But then you got to consider, you know, God, what am I going to sound like, you know, when I reach that age, you know? And it just sucks getting old.
Yeah, the body ages certain ways, and you can't predict person to person. There's some people that are, you know, you get your Mick Jaggers that are holding up, their voices are perfect after so long, and then other people at age 50 and suddenly it starts going south, and you never know person to person. How do you keep your voice going, and how do you find ways to emulate, like the Vince Neils and all the characters that you do, how do you find a certain technique to get that right, to recreate that for the audience?
Well, so I went to school for music and I took classical voice lessons. So I do I warm up and I warm down, and I do sort of modulate my voice to the front of my face to get some of the Axl Rose tones and some of the Vince Neil tones. Um and then I kind of you use a combination of all that when you're doing Journey, and then when I do the Van Halen, it's just you kind of have to throw it all out the window, and it's just all a feel thing, and it really it's you really do have to sort of chuck all the technique and just try to really feel the character and try to think, well, in this particular venue for this particular crowd, what would David Lee Roth really do? And and that's a challenge. There's so many little things that happen during a show that the audience doesn't see, that it is a real challenge for a show to show. Just for instance, the sort of the serpentine movement that Axl Rose does.
Yep.
That's not an easy move to do, to make it look fluid and make it look right, especially when the stage is tacky,
Right.
and you're in boots. And maybe this just happened to me at one show. I stuck my foot in my boot, and the insert in my boot sort of peeled towards the front, and I couldn't get my foot in, so I had to tear it out. So one of the inserts was in, one of the inserts was out. The boots were like wonky, and then the stage was really tacky. So my feet were sliding around inside my boot, but they weren't sliding like I needed them to for the movements. And it's just like little things like that happen, and you go, wow, this is a challenge, but that's rock and roll. But that's rock and roll, that it's just little things like that that you have to go, oh, well, this isn't ideal, but I got to get through it. And you just got to make it, so you have to come up with something else to do. And then you go with it, It's such a cool job. It really is. It really is a cool job. It's probably like you giving interviews, you kind of know what you're going to say, but you never really know what's going to happen in the interview.
No, not at all. And you get like the mind blown, especially like people you grow up like. This has probably happened to you when you get to like meet people who you've like. What's the biggest name who you've emulated or that Hairball has emulated associated with a band that you've actually got to meet in person?
Well, I have met Vince Neil several times.
Okay.
I have sort of an interesting childhood connection with him. His very first wife, right? And I grew up next door to each other. And so I used to date his very first wife's sister.
Wow.
So they played a show called the American Rock Festival at Timber Ridge Ski Resort back in, I think, '83. And he was driving around the day before the lake that I used to live on. It was either the day before or the day after. And so I got to see him then. Years later, I got to meet him. We opened up his club in Las Vegas when I was in another band, and he came up and he did like 5 songs with us, and and he had some really kind words to say, as we were jamming out together. He would, you sing these songs better than I do, so it was really kind of, that was cool. That was cool. And we even sort of tricked him a little bit during Looks That Kill. After you get out of the guitar solo, there's that part that goes, hey, right? We always did it different than the album did, so that everybody could stay in time. And he did it correctly, right? And so we all did it, and then he did it, and he turned around and he goes, "Oh man, I'm sorry," like he did it wrong. So
Gosh.
so that was pretty cool.
That is real. That's really awesome that you got a chance to do that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Fun.
like you were saying, you get to do these sorts of things and you never really know, like you were saying, and you get to chat with people like that, and you get to that level of experience is absolutely incredible. What is your favorite?
Hold on though. I have one more though, and
Yes.
this is now we don't do this character, or I would have mentioned this, right away. But you remember the band Stryper?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Oz Fox, the lead guitar player in Stryper, he plays guitar in my personal band in Las Vegas, Heart Attack. And so he's become one of my very best friends over the years. And it's really, really weird that he, that he's achieved the world wide level of status that he has, and has multi-platinum albums. And he's the most real, down to earth, let's get together and watch some Star Trek, uh, type of guy. Let's go get some coffee and get some desserts. He's just an amazing, amazing human being,
Cool.
And sometimes I just have to think to myself, God, I'm sitting across from, my childhood guitar hero, and I'm writing him a paycheck for this gig. It's so crazy. That's sort of a real mind blower sometimes. And but he's just so down to earth that it's hard to like sit back and get awestruck by him,
Right.
But and then he went through a health scare where he had, brain tumor, and then a tumor on his auditory nerve, I sort of helped him out, with that when he wasn't able to drive. I would go, take him places and this and that. But I mean, that's what you do for your friends. And so yeah, that's my Stryper story. And all those guys are like that. They're just all super cool, super down to earth guys. They just want to play music and go out and do the same thing that they've been doing for years and years. And zero ego, just great hearted people,
That's great when you can find those types. And I think that's usually what I find with the interviews. Like the people that want to do the interviews are more that type. Like they're good with chatting about that. If the ones that probably are more egotistical or whatever, well, they're not in the first place. They're probably not going to want to do an interview, so they don't cross paths with them. Versus the ones who do want to chat, well, they're the, I don't want to say the good ones, but they're the ones that are more, you're going to get along with them a little better. And for this little time over a Zoom camera, actually get to chat with them. And then you stop and think, I'm talking to blank. What's happening here? I would never have thought of this when I'm 12 years old that I'm sitting in a studio getting to do this. It's really, really cool.
Right.
For your singing these characters, what is the song you most either do sing or would like to sing from your characters? Maybe it doesn't make a hairball list, but you're like, I really kind of like this one. I'd like to do this if I could. Perfect world.
Again, good questions. There's always songs from bands that okay. So Motley Crue. We do a lot of songs from Motley Crue. We have a lot of songs from Motley Crue. Now we don't always play them, but but they're sort of in the satchel, they're in the bag. I can just spit out some ones that like Livewire. I really like to do Livewire. We don't do it that much, but I like that song.
Yeah.
I love to do Looks That Kill and Shout at the Devil. Those are fun. But that was kind of the seminal album for them. I think. There's a lot of, I would love to do Night Train from Guns N' Roses. and hopefully we'll be putting that in the set soon. I would like to do some Sammy Hagar Van Halen. You know,
Oh.
there's I get a lot of private questions about that, and we've talked about it a little bit, but it's a matter of getting the right costume and the right look, because Sammy Hagar just wasn't quite as recognizable a visual character as David Lee Roth was. Boy, oh boy, there's a million Journey songs out there. Stone in Love.
I was wondering if you're going to say that. That was the song that was popping through my head right before you said that.
Yeah.
Very underrated.
Right. We used to do it in a band that I was in Vegas all the time, and I just love doing that song. The song that I never tire of doing from Journey, and I've done it in every single band that I've ever been in, is Any Way You Want It. I don't know why. But I can do that song a million times, and every time we do it, I still have a blast singing it.
Huh.
I don't know why.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Never get worn out on it. That's awesome. Because I mean, you probably wouldn't want to say which one if it's true, but is there a song or two where you're like, oh, I got to do this one. Everyone loves it. Here we go again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't think there's an artist alive that would say that that there are songs that have become. Well, here's a good example just of a person that was very vocal about it. Janie Lane, he hated doing Cherry Pie, and that's what he became known for. And that guy was, if you ever got to talk to him, or if you know anything about his backstory, he's just an incredible musician, period. An incredible songwriter, and just his vocal ability was insane. And he became known for, Cherry Pie. Cool song, but he wrote it in 15 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever he said it was, and didn't put a whole lot of thought into it, and that became his big hit. And he was miserable that was his, the pinnacle of his career. What a shame. What a shame for him. Although I'm sure it made him a ton of money, but he was just a fantastic songwriter. If you've never really dug into the Warrant catalog, listen to some of those songs, the vocals and the harmonies and the melody lines that he came up with. You could definitely tell he was inspired by Brad Delp from Boston.
Yep. I hadn't connected the two. Now that I'm thinking of it, yeah, I see the connection.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to listen to Warrant a little differently now as a result of that, but it's going to make a lot of sense. That's cool. Before I let you go,
sure.
You guys were at US Bank Stadium recently. Did you get to sing? I know that's a halftime show, so it's not a full gig, but did you get to sing on stage at US Bank Stadium during halftime of a Packer-Viking game?
I did.
Good.
Yeah.
What's that experience like, doing a halftime show of not even a Super Bowl, of a regular season NFL game?
It was obviously a surreal experience to play in front of that many people, just like playing in Duluth to that many people is, it's a sort of a mind-blowing experience. But it was they put people on the field so you feel like you're performing in front of somebody, so you're looking down at those people and you're performing. The stage is really tiny. It was really shallow, so it was a tiny stage. So you're concentrating on not falling off the stage onto our drummer, and or any of the other things that are going on, and trying to perform to the people they're far away from you out there, while simultaneously trying to take in the big picture that there's 67,000 people watching you, and at the same time watching yourself on the big, huge Jumbotron. So it's and you're doing all this and just our song. We did 3 songs, but they were truncated, you know. So I did a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus of Kickstart My Heart. So it was, and it was very happy, just quick. It happened so fast that it was just over just like that, you know.
Oh my gosh.
So the memory that you take away is sort of a smear, you know, a blurry type of and then you watch the footage back of it and you go, oh yeah, you know, oh yeah, that I remember that. I remember when Happy came up to me and we were singing in the mic together and you know, and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's the opportunity of a lifetime that goes by so fast that you're glad that there's video footage of it. So you still have something that's sort of tangible about it.
Well, who knows? Maybe there'll be another game you get to go to, and the second time it'll go. Well, it's like with a new NFL player. The game eventually slows down the more times you do it. So maybe you get another chance, and the performance slows down as the term goes. So hopefully you get more chances that way.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I remember when we did the Duluth show. Tommy Summers, really great friend of the band and a just unbelievable photographer. He came sort of backstage and he came right at me with his camera and he was filming. And I said something like, you know, are you ready? Are you ready, Tommy? Let's go. And he followed me out onto the stage. And then Hunter, Happy's son, like, you know, just buzzed right by me or through my legs or something like that. And he came out, you know, dressed up like Happy, and we had him out on stage for Hot for Teacher. And I don't remember any of that.
Wow.
It was just, there was so much adrenaline going. I saw the video of it and I'm like, I don't even remember that happening, you know? And I don't do drugs or drink or smoke or anything. So I'm like, it wasn't that. It was just that much adrenaline going. You just don't really, it's you're just running on pure instinct at the time, which sometimes is not so good because we use a lot of pyro. And and I'm sure our pyro guy, Bryant, is probably, because I ask him every night, when are we doing the pyro? Same thing as last night, Drew. You know, but I just want to remember, because there have been times when I've come out too quick, the pyro's gone off, and I've almost singed my wig, or or caught on fire, and hey, that's rock and roll.
There it is. The spinal. You maybe create your own Spinal Tap moments. Maybe that's the best way to go. And anyway, who knows? But it's going to be a great show coming up in a few days. Pablo Center here in Eau Claire. Hairball once again back here. You guys are going to keep rolling around, I'm sure, as time goes along. We look forward to all of this coming down the road. Great stories. This was a very fun chat, Drew. So thanks for
having me.
You're quite welcome, and all the best going down the road with Hairball.
Thank you.